Most stories you read or watch likely feature women in predictable ways. But did you know that in 2023, only 38% of major film roles were played by women, according to a study by the Annenberg Inclusion Initiative? Even more shocking, only 23% of women in stories were portrayed as the main character. That means many women are still being sidelined in their own stories. Why does this matter? Because how women are written directly affects how they are viewed in society. Whether you're a writer, a reader, or just someone who enjoys a good story, it's crucial to understand how to write women in a way that reflects their true complexity and power. In this article, we're going to dive into 6 surprising ways your writing might reveal that you don't fully understand women. We'll explore how to break free from outdated stereotypes, how to make female characters truly stand out, and why these strategies are essential for every great storyteller. Stick around, you might find that the way you write women needs a complete makeover. Ready to take your storytelling to the next level? Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Mirror of Her Mind. Crafting real, complex female characters. To write compelling female characters, we need to move beyond the simple labels of strong or weak. Real women, just like men, are complex, layered, and unpredictable. Research shows that 60% of fiction readers prefer multi-dimensional female characters over one-dimensional ones. This means it's essential to build female characters with unique desires, flaws, and growth arcs. Start by thinking about her goals. What drives her? What are her fears? These motivations should inform her decisions, actions, and relationships. A good example is Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. She's independent, witty, and stubborn, but she also faces internal conflict and evolves throughout the story. Another tip is to avoid the love interest trap. Too often, women are only written in relation to male characters. Instead, focus on what makes her tick apart from romance. Think of Hermione Granger in Harry Potter. Her intelligence and loyalty make her memorable, not her romantic subplots. Don't fall into the "she's only here to support the male protagonist" trap. Female characters should exist in their own right, shaping the story with their actions. For instance, The Hunger Games' Katniss Everdeen drives the plot forward through her determination and courage, not as a tool for someone else's story. Make her decisions realistic. A woman doesn't have to be perfect or always make the right choice, but her choices should be grounded in who she is. Women are not static characters, they evolve based on experiences and decisions. Finally, remember, her backstory matters. What shaped her into the person she is today? Was it family? Trauma? Education? Life experience? Understanding her past will make her present actions more believable and relatable. It's all about showing how the past shapes her. Chapter 2: More than just a plot device. When women are the story, not the backdrop. Too often in stories, women are background characters, playing a secondary role to a male protagonist. This has to change. Women aren't just there to cheer on the hero. They have their own stories, and they deserve to be the star of the show. When writing women who are not mere plot devices, start by putting her in the driver's seat. In The Girl on the Train, Rachel's decisions directly impact the story's outcome. She's a deeply flawed, unreliable narrator, yet her actions push the narrative forward in unexpected ways. A strong female protagonist is one who challenges societal norms, and it's important to show how she reacts to and navigates those challenges. For instance, in The Handmaid's Tale, Offred's internal rebellion against a repressive system is the heart of the story. In your writing, avoid reducing female characters to just helpers or enablers. For example, in Mad Max: Fury Road, Furiosa isn't a passive character. She actively drives the plot and represents strength and independence. She's not a sidekick to Max but a force in her own right. Look for the why behind her actions. A good way to do this is to imagine how your female character would react if she were alone in the story. Would she still act the same? Or would her behavior shift because the focus is on her? Also, when she makes mistakes or has flaws, don't immediately make it about how she relates to a man. It's important that her growth is her own. As we see with Jean Grey in X-Men, her struggles with her own powers and identity aren't just about her relationships but about her understanding of self. A female character who drives the plot isn't just an accessory, she's a necessary piece. This can be seen in Frozen, where Elsa's struggle with her powers and her eventual self-acceptance are what shape the whole story. Chapter 3: Tone, Tension, and Trust. Mastering the language of female relationships. One of the most overlooked aspects of writing female characters is the depth of their relationships with each other. Women's friendships, rivalries, and familial bonds are often far more intricate than people assume. According to The Atlantic, studies show that women tend to communicate in ways that foster connection and understanding, which can be a powerful storytelling tool. Start by writing dialogue that reflects these complex dynamics. A conversation between two female friends isn't always sweet. Sometimes, it's tense. Think of the dynamic between Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway in The Devil Wears Prada. Their relationship is complicated, layered, and constantly shifting, and the dialogue reflects this. Be mindful of the tone. The way women communicate can range from nurturing to confrontational, from supportive to competitive. In Little Women, the sisters' interactions show everything from deep affection to sharp rivalry, making their bond feel real and grounded. Also, don't underestimate the power of silence. Sometimes, the most meaningful moments between women aren't what's said, but what's left unspoken. Think of the relationship between Alicia Vikander's character and Judi Dench's in The Light Between Oceans. Their bond isn't just defined by what they say but by their understanding of each other's pain and joy. Consider how women communicate across different generations. The relationship between a mother and daughter can be full of tension or tenderness, and these dynamics will add richness to your writing. In Lady Bird, the relationship between Lady Bird and her mother is a perfect example of a tense yet loving connection. Writing these relationships requires sensitivity. It's not about reinforcing stereotypes, but about portraying a realistic, nuanced view of how women connect with each other. They may disagree, support, fight, or love one another, but each interaction will reveal something deeper. If you're enjoying this deep dive into writing authentic female characters, don't forget to subscribe. In the next chapters, we'll explore more ways to develop stronger, more believable female protagonists. Chapter 4: Breaking the Silence. The power of female voices in dialogue. Writing compelling female characters begins with making their voices heard. Too often, women's voices in literature are softer, quieter, or less assertive than those of their male counterparts. But according to a Pew Research Center study, women make up 60% of all fiction readers, meaning their voices in stories are vital. Start by making sure each female character has a distinct way of speaking. This doesn't just mean using a different tone or vocabulary, it's about creating individuality in her voice. For example, in To Kill a Mockingbird, Scout Finch's voice is not only shaped by her age but also by her experiences and worldview. Her perspective is rich with emotion, curiosity, and wisdom beyond her years. Don't shy away from strong, bold language. Women can be brash, assertive, and confident without losing depth. Consider the character of Lisbeth Salander from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Her sharp words and biting retorts speak volumes about her personality, driving the story forward. Avoid making female characters speak solely in terms of relationships. A woman doesn't always need to talk about her emotions in connection to others. She can speak about her career, her dreams, or her struggles without referencing a man. Take The Hunger Games' Katniss Everdeen. Her dialogue isn't about romantic relationships but about survival, her choices, and the state of her world. Instead of relying on stereotypes of gentle, female speech, embrace variety. Female characters can be sarcastic, funny, or direct. Research from Cambridge University shows that women often use humor and sarcasm to build relationships, which can make for more dynamic and engaging dialogue. Don't be afraid of silence, either. Sometimes, the absence of words speaks louder than any dialogue. In Bridget Jones's Diary, Bridget's internal monologue says more about her thoughts and emotions than any spoken conversation. Use inner dialogue to show a woman's personality, as it's often more reflective and nuanced than external speech. When writing conversations, think about how the characters' voices reflect their inner strength. In Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen's sharp wit and independent thinking shine through Elizabeth Bennet's dialogue, turning what might seem like polite exchanges into powerful moments of rebellion and self-expression. Chapter 5: Emotions Aren't Weakness. Writing vulnerability with strength in storytelling, emotions are often linked to weakness, especially when it comes to female characters. But vulnerability can be a source of strength. Studies show that characters who express their emotions authentically are more relatable and human, regardless of gender. Writing women who show vulnerability can make them even more resilient and complex. Start by allowing your female characters to experience a full range of emotions without judgment. In Atonement, Bryony's guilt and sorrow over her mistaken accusation aren't signs of weakness, they're powerful emotions that drive her growth and the plot. Vulnerability makes her more relatable and tragic, but also more human. Write emotional moments not as an afterthought, but as a core part of the character's development. In The Fault in Our Stars, Hazel Grace's journey is defined by her vulnerability. Her illness doesn't make her weak, it makes her stronger as she faces life with honesty, humor, and raw emotion. Avoid turning emotions into a plot device. Too often, emotions are used simply to propel the story forward, but for a woman, emotions can be just as central to her development as her physical actions. Think of Beloved, where Setha's emotional baggage isn't just a side element, it's the heart of the story. Her internal struggles shape her choices and ultimately determine the fate of her family. Create emotional arcs that feel earned. Vulnerability isn't about weakness, but about confronting inner conflicts head-on. According to the American Psychological Association, the ability to confront difficult emotions is a trait of emotional intelligence. Writing a character who can face their fears and face them head-on can make your female protagonist feel more empowered. Emotions don't always have to be loud or dramatic. In The Remains of the Day, Miss Kenton's quiet, suppressed emotions reveal a wealth of strength and regret. She doesn't need to scream her pain to show its depth. Sometimes, a restrained gesture or unspoken emotion speaks volumes. Finally, consider the emotional resilience of your character. Strength isn't just about how someone reacts to their emotions, but how they grow through them. In The Bell Jar, Esther Greenwood's emotional struggles ultimately lead to her personal breakthrough, proving that vulnerability is an essential part of healing. Chapter 6, Beyond Romance. How to write women who aren't defined by their relationships. Too often, women in stories are defined solely by their romantic relationships. But writing female characters who aren't dependent on romance opens up endless possibilities. The Women's Media Center reports that only 30% of films feature female characters with agency independent of their romantic roles. It's time for change. Start by giving your female characters other interests, passions, and ambitions. Look at Mulan. Her journey isn't about falling in love, it's about proving her worth and defending her country. By focusing on her personal growth and bravery, Mulan becomes a hero who isn't defined by any man. Consider also the female character whose plot doesn't revolve around finding a relationship. In Kill Bill, Beatrix Kiddo's quest for revenge isn't driven by love but by a need for justice and personal closure. Romance doesn't even factor into her story until the very end, and even then, it's not her defining trait. Create strong women who are defined by their careers, their intellect, or their struggles. In Hidden Figures, the women at NASA are driven by a need to succeed in their careers, and the film shows that their relationships take a backseat to their ambitions and intellectual prowess. Their stories are about much more than romance. When writing women outside of romantic narratives, it's also essential to focus on their friendships. The Joy Luck Club is a great example of women whose relationships with other women are central to the story. These bonds, filled with humor, tension, and support, are what define them, not any romantic connection. Women can be strong, determined, and capable without being involved in a romantic subplot. Gravity shows Dr. Ryan Stone's survival story isn't about a man rescuing her, it's about her will to live and overcome challenges, no love interest involved. Think about female characters who find their strength in solitude. In Wild, Cheryl Strayed's journey of self-discovery and healing through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail is a solo journey. It's about her personal growth, not a relationship with a partner. Lastly, make sure your female characters have goals outside of love. Whether it's career ambition, personal freedom, or a sense of justice, her dreams shouldn't be secondary to her relationship status. Women are complex individuals, and their stories should reflect their multifaceted lives. If you found these insights helpful, be sure to subscribe. Keep writing strong, independent female characters and elevate your storytelling.